Hello YouTube! Today a remaster of my lore video on Septim coins that released like 2 years ago. I recently started editing my unboxing video of the official Septim coin replica that's released by Bethesda, and that made me want to watch my lore video on coins again. But it turns out that video hasn't aged all too well. So here's a remaster, and in this video I correct some of the mistakes that I made in my original video. Also, it's companion video, so the unboxing video can be viewed through the link in the description or later this week on the channel. I'm uploading it some days apart from this video to not mess with YouTube's algorithm, since I've been told that's bad. Anyway, let's dive right into the lore. So, the Septim coin is by now a staple of the Elder Scrolls series. It has become ingrained in Tamrielic society, and it's supposedly the most conventional payment method on Tamriel. The coin itself is supposedly made out of gold, or an alloy of gold, and features the face of Tiber Septim and an Imperial commandment on the front, and the back features the Imperial dragon, which is also the symbol of Akatosh, as most of you know. This dragon on the back is actually the main cause for the Septim coin's nickname in many provinces, like Morrowind, which is the Drake. In the provinces where the Empire is less popular, like Morrowind during the Third Era, many people will call this coin the Drake. I suspect this will also be the case if Ulfric manages to win the Civil War, that the coin will be called the Drake for a certain period of time. At least before the economy of Skyrim will have recovered enough for Ulfric to start producing new coins with probably Talos on the front, but without the Imperial commandment, of course. And then probably the symbol of Talos on the back or something like that instead of the Imperial dragon. At least that's how I would guess a Stormcloak coin would look like. I'm not saying the Stormcloaks will win the war, but I'm just saying that's what might happen if they win the war. Speaking of other coins in the Septim, I personally suspect that the Septim is no longer the sole currency present on Tamriel. While I think that Hammerfell most likely still uses the Septim because their economy has to be pretty dependent on the Empire, even though they're independent politically, I think that the Altmerry Dominion provinces and Blackmarsh will definitely use other currencies by this time, at least domestically. Both states are ruled by factions which are either opposed to the Empire, in case with the Dominion, which is ruled by the Thalmor, or want to get rid of the occupied history of Blackmarsh, in the case of the Ansahil, who are now basically the leading faction in Blackmarsh. So I think that both factions aren't too fond of the Septim coin, since they merely remind them of the days that, the Septim Empire ruled their lands. So I would suspect that the Dominion at least has replaced the Septim by something along the lines of another coin, like a Dominion Eagle, perhaps with some legendary Altmer king or queen on one side, or like Ariel on one side, and then the eagle insignia of the Dominion on the other side. When it comes to Blackmarsh, I'm not really sure what type of currency they would use. Perhaps because of their more, traditional society, they now just trade goods among each other and no longer use currency, and then just use the Imperial Septim and the Dominion Eagle when they're trading with any of the foreign nations. And in terms of Morrowind, I personally suspect that Morrowind is probably still using the Septim, or Drake as they would still call it. Even if Morrowind is no longer part of the Empire, something that we basically have conflicting reports on nowadays, even then I don't think their economy is strong enough to produce a new coin for their own province, especially when the funds for such a project are direly needed in other places and their main trading partner will be the Empire, meaning that you'll have to trade for Septims at some point anyway. You still pay with Septims on Solstheim in Skyrim, which is official Morrowind territory of House Redrun, so I think that it's fair to assume that Morrowind still uses the Septim. However, the fact that we still use the Septim on Solstheim doesn't really mean much, for the lore aspect of things at least, as that might just be for gameplay purposes, so Bethesda not really wanting to overcomplicate things by giving us multiple currencies with different values and vendors giving out different currencies, which is most likely the same reason we don't see any Nordic, Falmer or Dwemer or Ayleid coins in ancient ruins. While we did see Dwemer coins in Morrowind, we don't see any other types of coins in any of the games since then, except for Elder Scrolls Online, but we'll get to that in a minute. This is probably just for gameplay purposes or because Bethesda just did not bother to add more types of coins, but I personally think it's more of the gameplay side of things, even though some people might just call them lazy. Now, if you do want a lore explanation for the Septim coins that you find in old ruins, I might have one for you, because We know that the coins of previous Cyrodiilic empires, like the Alessian Empire and the Riemann Empire, both also had coins with a face on one side and then the Imperial Dragon on the other, meaning you might actually find other coins than Septim in certain ruins, but then Bethesda just added Tiber Septim's face as a placeholder. I agree, it's not an ideal explanation. I mean, it makes Bethesda come off as, lazy, since the Septim texture is still there and it does not explain the lack of coins of other cultures like Nordic or Falmer. Or it doesn't really explain the Septim coins found in ruins predating the Alessian Empire, but hey, I tried. And this explanation would also give some potential lore behind the coin itself, as previous empires already had coins with dragons on the back, meaning that Tiber Septim just continued that trend and maybe just continued producing those coins, but instead of having the head of one emperor on one side, he just had his own face on, the front to commemorate his conquest of Tamriel, bringing the Septim as we know it now into the economy of Tamriel. That said, there's a final thing about the Septim coins that I personally don't get, but we have a lore explanation for it, or at least we have a solid theory for it. I'm personally quite bothered by the fact that every coin we find is just a standard Septim coin, just a gold coin, no bronze coins, no silver coins, just gold. Now, my theoretical explanation for this is that in lore, there do exist other types of coins. I've talked on this a couple of times in the past. There might, for example, be silver coins with Emperor Uriel on the front, or bronze coins with Empress Kinthera on the front, so on. Multiple types of coins, all with different values and made out of different materials. We know that this practice of having different coins with different materials and different emperors on the front, or at least different depictions on the front, happened in the past with Imperial currency and other currencies. As I mentioned before, Elder Scrolls Online does show us some other currency. Because in the Elder Scrolls Online you can steal a coin set of Imperial coins, and the description of that item is basically that it's coins depicting multiple emperors from Alessia to the Akaviri potentates. And that's not it, as in ESO there are sets of Dwemer, Orcish and Yokuden coins as well, which are described as having multiple types of coins in one set, which you steal. So most likely in lore it's not just the Septim. There's probably a whole array of different coins with different values based on their materials and with different emperors and their depictions on the front, as we know that this practice of having different coins within one currency system happened in lore before, so it's most likely still here, but it's just cut for, gameplay purposes to have it be simple for, casuals, or like, yay, I find a gold coin and now I have more money, but I don't know, it could probably be confusing or something. They might have thought it would be confusing, but I personally would have preferred it if they had like silver coins and bronze coins as well. But hey, that's just my opinion, I guess. That said, that's basically all the information from the original videos that I now have remastered, plus some lore corrections, additions and improvements. I read through some of the comments there and I at least listened to the feedback, and I made it so that the remaster had most of the corrections in it and also had some improvements. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider watching my unboxing of the official Septim coin replica that Bethesda released. Don't worry, I'm not sponsored by them. I just bought the thing and I wanted to unbox it. So yeah, and there you can see that in that video I also compare it to the previous official replica that Bethesda produced back in the day, which came with the Oblivion Collector's Edition, which I have. Actually, I had it secondhand, so if you want to watch that, click the link in the description or the eye icon right now, or wait until it releases later this week. Whatever your preference is. I would love to release it now, but I've heard that messes with the YouTube algorithm, so I'll wait a few days. That said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider sticking around until the next lore video later this week on Thursday, which will be all new and not a remaster, because I release remasters usually somewhere random in the week. But before I end this video, allow me to thank my top patrons: Mr. Bernardo Binna, Metalloid1v1, Mr. Christmas, Gabriel Binna, Hayden Barnes and Mr. Para. These guys, along with the other people on screen, make these videos possible, and for that I'm extremely grateful. And for those of you maybe wanting to join my Patreon at some point, I'm actually preparing something for Patreon as a sort of little Christmas special. Don't worry for the people that don't want to join, it's not exclusive lore or anything, as I don't want to do that. It's just something along the lines of a vlog or something like that. It's not really special, but there's something being added to the program, so if you're interested in that kind of thing, check it out. If not, well, then not. With that said, I'll see you in the unboxing or in the coming lore video next Thursday, which is probably, I don't know, a few days away. I don't know when I'll release this. Bye bye.